A federal court has ruled that a lower court's ruling involving a woman who threatened an abortion doctor cannot stand, and that woman should face trial because of the threats that she sent to the abortion provider. Now, the woman in question here is referred to as an anti-abortion activist, and she's been very aggressive about her tactics. So she sent a doctor by the name of Dr. Mila Means the following threat. They know where you shop, who your friends are, what you drive, where you live. You will be checking under your car every day because maybe today is the day someone places an explosive under it. Now, I should note that Dr. Mila Means was training to be an abortion provider, and after all these threats, she actually decided that she was no longer going to train or offer abortion services in her clinic. So she was definitely intimidated, and these types of threats deterred her from doing something that she felt was the right thing to do in the state of Kansas. Now, after Angel Dillard sent out that threat, of course, a lower court said, well, you know, this is protected speech, so we're not going to do anything about it. However, upon appeal, the 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals overturned a lower court summary decision that anti-abortion activist Angel Dillard's letter was constitutionally protected speech. The ruling comes in a civil lawsuit brought against Dillard by the Justice Department under a federal law aimed at protecting access to abortion services. A split three-judge appeals panel said the decision about whether the letter constituted a true threat should be left up to a jury to decide.
This woman is despicable, and this is what terrorists do. They try to terrorize you until you change your ways. So in this case, unfortunately, it worked. For 4 years, they had no one to provide services in Wichita, Kansas, because they killed a previous provider, Dr. Scott Roeder, and then they rode Mila Means out of town, basically, in terms of her plans to provide abortions, by threatening to blow her car up, okay? They're terrorists, that's what they are.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, it's one thing to send out threats, which isn't constitutionally protected speech, but it's another thing for it to happen in the context of Kansas. Because we get empty threats on a regular basis, but if you're in the context of an abortion provider already being murdered because of what he was doing,
in that same exact place,
exactly, then these types of threats are not to be taken lightly. They're very, very serious. Now, the lawyer for Dillard says the following: it is disturbing that the Department of Justice spent massive resources going after her when both the FBI and the district judge concluded that no evidence exists that her letter was a threat. Okay, when you say you're going to be checking under your car every night because someone's going to put explosives under it, that's a threat.
I know where you live, I know where you drive, I know your routine, and you better check your car because there might be a bomb under it. If that's not a threat, what the hell is a threat? The lawyer continued to say that her client is just a musician, a chaplain, and a homemaker who has always disavowed violence.
Really? She's always disavowed violence, except there's some more evidence, including some other threats and some other, advocacy that she's done in favor of violence. With one move, Roeder was able to accomplish what we had not been able to do. So he followed his convictions, and I admire that. She's referring to an individual who killed an abortion provider. Okay, you admire his convictions? Yeah, you are a violent, terrible human being. And if you're going to prance around pretending like you're pro-life, you really need to check yourself, because pro-life doesn't mean that you only protect the rights of a zygote or a fetus. Pro-life means that you value human lives, viable human lives. And obviously she doesn't, because if something goes against her own religious belief, she thinks that it's totally okay to advocate for the murder of that person.
Could you imagine if a Muslim American said, oh, hey, military general living in the middle of Kansas, right? Or a lieutenant or anyone, right? You better, I know where you live. I know where you work. I know everything about you. You better check your car for a bomb under it, okay? And then he said, oh, I went and talked to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in jail, and I really admire him for having the courage of his principles and taking action.
It would go really well, actually.
Oh, yeah. No. They'd probably say, oh, that's just free speech.
Free speech, yeah. Protected.
No, it's okay. No, but imagine that guy is targeting a woman in the middle of, a white woman in the middle of Kansas, okay? After a white woman had been killed, or a person had been killed that did the same exact job as her. Let's say she's a military recruiter, right?
Yeah.
In that same exact place. You think they're not gonna treat that guy as a terrorist? You think we're gonna have a discussion about whether that's free speech or not? And then when the lawyer says, no, my client, Muhammad Abdullah, has always disavowed violence when he wasn't talking about, placing bombs under your car. And people are going to take that with a straight face and be like, oh, yeah, that might be true. We have two totally different standards in this country. We have standards for, whether it's Muslims or people of color, et cetera. And we have a different standard if you're right-wing. If you're right-wing, you can say anything you like, and we have legitimate discussions as to whether you're threatening people or not. When you're obviously threatening people, and when your friends, literally your friends, she says, Scott Roeder is my friend, I look up to him, just murdered someone.
Yes.
You're a terrorist. That's what you are.
Yes. And what's incredible is that, look, some people might argue, well, the Department of Justice is filing this lawsuit against her, so she is suffering the consequences of some of her actions. True, but just understand that in a different context where you're dealing with, let's say, a Muslim for the sake of this example, if a Muslim was saying something like this, they would immediately be placed on a terrorist watch list. They would, there would be no discussion as to whether or not it's a threat or whether or not it's terrorism.
The lower court ruled in her favor. She said, that's just free speech.
It's amazing.
Oh, come on. Really? That same court in the middle of the country is going to rule in favor of Muhammad Abdullah when he says, I got a car under your bomb. I got a bomb under your car. Or I might have a bomb under your car. I know where your car is, and you better check it every day. They're going to call that free speech? Every person watching this video, no matter where you are on the political spectrum, they're not going to call that free speech. They're going to call that terrorism. She won in the lower court. Insane.